This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.
Well, hello, everybody. You know who this is. This is good old BMR, Bigfoot Michiganrob, joining you close to 6 o'clock on a Friday evening. How's everybody doing? You know, I've been, the last month, you guys, I've been putting out these live encounter stories and getting a nice response from them. So I'm deciding to kind of work this into the ever-growing schedule, right? It's just a matter of finding that right time slot, you know, when I'm available and when you guys are available, of course. So I want to thank each and every single one of you guys, you know, for coming on in. I've got 3 really cool stories for you all. I titled this, though, A Village Attacked by Humanoids. That's going to be the second story. I'm going to warm you up. The first 2 stories are revolving First Nations. One's about a tribal leader that shows this guy a Sasquatch. The second one is another tribal type story. It takes place in Lake Superior with an attack on a village from alleged little people, or I don't know, some sort of humanoid creatures. And then I close it out with a guy going to his mom's birthday party, accosted by what he appears or alleges to say was a werewolf, a dogman, some wolf-like creature. It's funny that I'm going to close that one out because it was my mom's birthday, 79. Happy birthday, Mama. Actually, it was a couple days ago, so I thought I'd do the birthday one last. So thanks for each and every single one of you for coming on in. If you're new here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michiganrob on YouTube, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube, Texas Front Porch found on YouTube, Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World on YouTube, Paranormal Paul on YouTube, Donnie Cho says stuff on YouTube, and a few others. PRT Josh Turner, check him out. And there's a whole host of other people that we hang out with on a daily basis. Thanks to everybody for coming on in. Don't forget the super chats open, a great way to help support what we do around here. So I do appreciate that in advance for donations. Not expected, always appreciated. You too can become a BMR pirate. Our mateys, join today, join the many, join the few, depending on your point of view, of course. So thank you for that. Hit that like button. Hit that like button because that does help promote the analytics and or that little heart thing on the side of your phone or your computer. Fire up hearts and 100% and stuff. That also helps the algorithm. I also want to thank everybody for buying my 2 books out on Amazon. Bigfoot Mystery Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters Book 1, Book 2. Both the book 2 is pinned in chat. Or you can just type Bigfoot Michigan Rob in your Amazon browser and please leave a review. Moving on to some other business really quick. You all know about the Crossing Realms Conference taking place September 19th and 20th at the Eagleton Civic Center in Richmond, Missouri. We've got a fantastic lineup. And I got to tell you guys, I had a couple comments, and I got to tell you, I love the people. I love constructive criticism. I like it when you guys leave a comment. I really do because it helps. It just helps me. It helps the group. Yes, the conference is 8 months away. Rob, you guys have been promoting the hell out of this conference. Well, number one, we want it to be a success. Number two, myself, Krista, Brandy, Tex, Donnie, Monica, we spent a lot of time with this. We're very proud of this. So if we're promoting this for the next 8 months, that's just the way it goes because we want it to be a success. And also, as you know, our ghost hunt's already sold out. And another thing I have to remind you guys, if you are deciding to come on down, the place we're staying at, the Super 8 in Missouri, you guys, not to scare you guys, there's plenty of hotels and motels around, but if you want to be with us where we're staying, that hotel, motel, Super 8 over there, where all the speakers will be, all the featured guests will be, all of us will be there, it's booking rapidly. So reserve it if you want to stay and be close to us. Don't be scared. I'm not scaring you off. There's other areas and other locations around there. But, if you want to be a little bit closer to us, get on it. So the marketing is going to continue all the way until the start. So, that's just the way it rolls, because we're prideful of this. We spend a lot of time. So, we're going to market the hell out of it. At least I'm going to. Okay. So thanks in advance for that. I appreciate each and every single one of you for coming on in. I'm going to get on with some of these cool encounter stories for you guys. And thanks to everybody for coming on in. If I don't see you out there, let me. I'll do a quick roll call. I'll go to the top. Why not? I'm going to start from the top, everybody, and then I'm going to move it on down because I get distracted when I'm going solo. We've got Little Patty, Kimber, Gary Sr., scrolling down, same people. Denise, hey, Denise. Denise again. Gary, boy, it's 45, 47 of you here now. Keith, hey, Keith. Keith will be on next Tuesday with me and Krista. That'll be a great show. Moon at Noon, hello. How you doing? Good to see you. Hello, Krista. Oh, by the way, any questions you can direct to the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast at gmail.com or beyondbmr at gmail.com if you have questions, because we get a lot of questions too. Mike Bothwell, how you doing, buddy? Gemini Moon, hi, Gemini. I'm glad that you got the recipe from me from Sir Brian. I hope that helps you out with your mom and yourself. So, Candy Wolf, how you doing? Who else? Scrolling. Val. Hey, Val. Good to see you. In fact, one of the stories takes place in Pennsylvania tonight. I know you hate hearing about Dogman of Pennsylvania, but yep, that's going to happen. The third show, the third story. Jack Dow MCA looks like he's new. Hey, thanks for coming on, buddy. Please subscribe if you're new to all of our channels, Blondes and Booze and Tex, and everybody else I mentioned earlier. Hi, Tanya, Danny, Daryl Stanley. Edith, hi, Edith. Barbara. Boy, this list is getting longer. I appreciate this for this nice little welcome. So thanks to everybody. Scrolling down again, if I miss you, I do apologize. I want to get the show started here. Standing Stones. What's up, Stones? So, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you to everybody. If I missed you, love you. Just didn't see you. And so I'm going to get started with the first one. And this is, again, the first one. I got 3, okay? And this first one, Tribal Tom and Sasquatch. This guy, he sent me this email some time back, and I thought it was very cool. It's very, it's kind of lighthearted. It's kind of It's a good story. BMR doesn't trust Bigfoot simply because of what happened to me, but there's always some decent, cool stories. And I don't think Bigfoot's a bad guy. I really don't. Mine was bad. Mine was bad. Your first experience is always the lasting experience. Hi, Head Trip. How you doing? This takes place in Washington State Park, actually Washington State, near Mount Rainier in the fall of 2017. Now, this email I got was issued to me by a man who wants to remain anonymous. So I'm just going to call this guy John. Common John, right? Common name. He tells a story of a Bigfoot roaming the depths of Bumping Lake in Washington State. John lives in a village in Washington State where the majority of its residents, everybody, are that of the Yakama tribe. Okay. And they've all been there for several decades. Throughout the years, John has spent many a night sitting around the campsite, okay, listening in on the elders' stories of Sasquatch and the many paranormal sightings that have been witnessed during the years. John felt honored because after about a decade living amongst the people of the Yakama, I think that's how you say it, they finally let him sit in, you guys, on some of these stories around the campfire. In particular, excuse me, he became friends with his neighbor, who was the most respected of all the tribal community. The two men became such good friends that John affectionately called his neighbor Tribal Tom, who was the elder statesman. So one night during a campfire, John was fully engrossed in the night storytelling by all these First Nations folks. So John whispers in Tribal Tom's ear, I need to experience one of these Bigfoot, one of these stories that's going on. Hey, Dookie. The next morning, John got his wish because Tribal Tom, the neighbor, a decade, they finally let him in on all these sit-ins when they have their powwow, if you will, right, about Sasquatch. He stopped over to John's house one morning while he's finishing up his coffee, and Tribal Tom says, "Hey, man, John, you've got an hour to get ready." Okay. So John, his heart is pumping. He's excited. He knows what his friend Tribal Tom meant. So he started to pack for his adventure. It took about 2 hours or so, I believe it was, for them to hike from where John had left his car. And of course, he was accompanied, I guess that's how you say it, by Tom and three other men from the Yakama tribe. So they arrived upon, they came upon this spot um, that suited their camping needs, and they set up camp. Okay. They set up their camp, and Tom told John that we're going to take you to a very sacred spot amongst the tribe. So for this man who's not he's not a First Nations person, this was a great honor for the tribal leader to take this average Joe, if you will. Took him 10 years to finally be let into some of their discussions. So he's taking him to a sacred spot. So this is really, you guys, a very unique, and it's an honor that this happened to take place. Tom was very excited. He was a little bit concerned, as he thought perhaps that they would start fresh in the morning, but all of a sudden it got dark all of a sudden. But all of a sudden he had no complaints. He'll go out in the darkness. So the hiking was about a mile in, right? And Tribal Tom has mentioned to the group, the other three, that to stop the hike, they stop. They're on this hike, everybody. He tells everybody to stop and crouch down and get very low. They're in a small clearing on an animal trail that was beaten down where deer had traveled out, gazing out into the forest. They're all looking out. The moon now helps to shed some light. It's very dark, as I mentioned earlier, but the moon provided a nice backdrop just where you could see out. In the beginning, there was mainly because of the moon. There was a lot of shadows, but most of these shadows, everybody, was of deer. They could tell it was deer prancing about that was crossing the paths in front of them. So about after a while, you guys, about an hour had passed. Then John himself spotted this dark shadow. But this shadow was unlike the deer shadows. It was something very tall, and as he says, it had this conical shaped head. Jojo, Sharon, hello. Hello, everybody. Hey, Scotty. Has this conical shaped head, and he sees this figure kind of peer out from the side of a tree. So, in an effort now, everybody, to get a better vision of whatever he thinks he's seeing, John reaches for his night vision goggles, binoculars, and he focuses on this shadow. He's looking through these night vision binoculars, glasses, whatever they are, and he exclaims out loud, almost childlike. He explains, "This is exactly what he has been waiting for." And more clearly through these night vision, he clearly sees a Bigfoot. It was tall, muscular, pointed head, conical head, I would say. And and it was covered entirely in dark hair. Half of the body, he says, is visible. But without a doubt in his mind, he knows it was a Sasquatch. He knows in his heart of souls, his heart is a Sasquatch. John turns now to Tribal Tom. See, Tribal Tom and the other two or three guys that accompanied John let him experience this. They didn't interrupt what he was looking at through the vision. They're experiencing him having this almost spiritual awakening. They can see the glee on his face. He's extremely happy at seeing this. They let him be. So as John turns to Tribal Tom, he's got this big smile on his face, and he knew exactly what John was experiencing. Tribal Tom then motions to John to continue looking through the night vision lenses. Now, as he's looking through once again the night vision, the second time looking through, as Tribal Tom let him say, keep on, keep on looking, my friend. He sees what to appears to be green orbs dancing all about this figure in the woods. So everybody now, not only does he see the half body of this Sasquatch, clearly can see it, and then he pulls away to look at Tribal Tom, who's smiling, and Tribal Tom, of course, tells him to continue looking. Now all of a sudden, these green orbs are dancing about this Sasquatch. Now he goes on to tell me that this Sasquatch or this vision, right? This mysterious shadow, it takes on a different look. Again, it stands very tall, a conical shaped head. But now the beast, the creature, the Sasquatch, I should say, I really wouldn't call this a beast, you guys. It took on a more digitized appearance, right? And it slowly disappeared right in front of his eyes, looking through the night vision. The rain started to fall, as he's telling me, and the group of men headed back to the campsite. Tom's adrenaline's flowing. He's so excited. I mean, he says he's maxed out with adrenaline. The rain subsides. The men drew a fire, and Tom reflected on what he had seen. Or John reflected on what he had seen, I should say, with Tribal Tom. Tribal Tom simply grinned, a wide grin, looking at John, and he says, "Now you are a knower." I thought it was a great story to start the show. Very cool, right? I mean, you're talking about this man who was led into this First Nations group, which is uncommon for an outsider, a white man, I guess, if you will. But it took a decade before they finally let him in and sit in on some of their storytelling along the fire. Tribal Tom takes him to the sacred land and experiences the Sasquatch. That was pretty cool. I wanted to start it out nice. I got 3 stories because the next 2 aren't quite as nice, if you will. Thanks to everybody for coming on in. So, this next one I'm going to tell you guys is I feel sorry for this young lady. She doesn't even give me her name until the very end of the email. And it's not her actual name because she has been kind of outcast from her First Nations. This takes place with another tribe, and this takes place in Lake Superior, off the coast of Lake Superior. Okay. Head Trip, Sparky, Jojo, all you guys for calling. Mickey, how you doing? Thank you for coming on in. If I missed you, still love you. So I'm going to get on with this. And this is about alleged little people or some humanoid people or humanoids, right? That are they rain terror on this village outside of Lake Superior. And so, in recollecting back from this email, this young woman, it goes on to say, "Hey, Rob, I am of Chippewa descent, also known as the Ojibwe." And she goes on to tell me that her ancestors are descendants of the northern Algonquian people. Okay. She says during this encounter, she had lived at the shores of Lake Superior with her tribal nation. She was told growing up as a young girl, throughout the years, she was always reminded of the little people. Now, she does go on to say, "Hey, Rob, listen, the little people in the area are pretty laid back. They don't mess with them. They help them in a lot of instances." So she did not want me to have a bad connotation about, the little people being dangerous or evil or nefarious, right? But she was also warned of another fierce little tribe of humanoid like creatures that are not as friendly as the actual little people. It also goes on to say, she goes on to tell me that some of the native legends, depending on the tribe, did describe a lot of these little people, as friendly, or they would like play pranks on the people. Okay. Made you feel okay. They often rang out with song and laughter. So very non-threatening. She also goes on to say that a lot of these little people And also some of these nefarious humanoids, little humanoids, as she describes, had an admiration for little children. The good little people would protect the little children. If they wandered off from the camp and they were accosted by a bear or a wolf, they will be there to help protect the kids that wander too far from where they live, from the reservation. She goes on to tell me how some of these little people, in fact, would remove these children from dangerous situations. They also would help some of these tribal families help find a lost child and bring them back to their encampment, right? So again, they're aware of the little people, very friendly, protect the children. So the tribal nation is very at ease with these. But as she goes on to tell me further that there's another menacing group, which we're going to get on with here in just a couple minutes. She goes on to say that oftentimes when a little person was found by a human adult, they would beg them not to make mention of their existence. Also, the little people were very protective. They knew that the First Nations knew of them, but they did not want outsiders outside of their realm, outside of their area to know about this. They didn't want to bring their whereabouts or that they're known to anybody for their own protection and safety, I'd imagine. And I think that's a great point. They're pretty much scared of man, right? Let's face facts. Little people went on to tell them that they served their nation and they would protect them and help them the best they could. So this young lady in this email also goes on to tell me that among some of these tribes, it did differ though. She goes on to say that her tribe really didn't paint quite the same picture. They went on to say the story of this other little people tribe and warned their camp about these. They went on to say they were bands of 36-inch high feral humanoid type people, that they were there to deceive, abduct children with very bad intentions. It goes on to say that some of these intentions perhaps could even be evil. So you have two sets you have one set that's good, one set that's bad, I'm assuming, right? The way this story plays out, this encounter plays out. Now she wants to get into it, and she goes on to tell me that the experience that she had is something much more sinister with no regard for human or any tribal life. She goes on to tell me it's the spring of 2011. And what she experiences, the happenings here with these other little folk, they were not protector of children or anything. They were not friendly. She goes on to say that the odd thing about this encounter didn't quite match, again, the generic description of the tribes being nice. She goes on to say that she was sitting back on her back porch of their trailer eating bread and some cheese. She goes on to say that it was kind of a hazy day, a very windy day, as the winds of Lake Superior were wreaking havoc, as the coastline is being pounded by waves from the mighty Lake Superior. She says at the base of her small village, atop the hill, it kind of encompassed the community. And the top of this hill, she recognizes as a bunch of other people in the tribe. They They recognize this black object sitting upon the hill. They can't make it out. It's too far away. They can't differentiate it. The object wasn't very clear, but it was there and it was moving. At first, it appeared to be that of a bear. Okay, everybody? At least she says that was her first thought. Because, quite frankly, bears are not uncommon in these parts. Then she goes on to say that the object was standing upright, so knew it couldn't really have been a bear because it was standing upright for quite a while. It wasn't wobbling, it was just kind of there. Then it drops down to all fours and it starts racing down the camp very quickly. Now she does think that perhaps it is a bear. What is this? I don't, still too far away, everybody. And it's coming down the camp very quickly. It's coming down towards their camp from this hill with the mountains in the background. The image now is in full view. It was not a bear. It had the look, it took on the appearance of a naked, disheveled woman with hair all over her body, except for her chest. And this is obviously how she came upon the clue that it was of female persuasion. She even goes on to be a little more descriptive and says she had like huge, sagging, oversized breasts. Says the woman was on all fours. Got 15 feet from the porch. Now it's coming up to this young lady who's telling me the story. It's coming up to her porch of her trailer. On all fours, sagging, breasted, whatever human being, I suppose, at the time, right? She gets on all fours, got 15 feet from the porch, as I said already earlier. And then she gets up and she stands on two legs, upright from the four-legged previous position. This young lady, this First Nations lady that tells me the story, says that it was unlike the little people, much different. When she stood, she was perhaps a tad under 5 feet tall, so a little bit taller than the 36-inch little people that she described earlier. Yeah, I was short, not a little person. Okay, everyone. When this woman, I guess I'm going to call her a woman at this juncture, everybody says when this woman, this person rose up, she sees perched on her back, the back of her shoulders, she was carrying a crying infant. She goes on to say it looked like a little child, but it almost looked like a porcupine. This little baby, everybody, had sharp quails extruding from his or her back. She could not tell the gender. It wasn't a porcupine. It was a human-looking humanoid. I guess humanoid is the best way to say it, but it had quails coming out of his back. She goes on to say this human female had gray skin. It had like a weird, very huge mouth. And it looked angry as it's peering in on this young lady with saliva dripping from all corners of her mouth. Says the naked woman snarled, stuck out her tongue, and extended out her arms with her palms almost out as if she was asking for food. This native young lady says she threw out what she had of her remaining bread and cheese that she was eating earlier and kind of tosses it out to her. The naked lady grabbed it and, as fast as a bolt, spun around and sped off back towards the hilltops, where she eventually was out of sight. So now everybody, I guess this woman, whatever, comes down from the hilltop with a baby, a weird looking baby, almost looking like a human porcupine, growls, comes up to her back of her trailer, growls at her, snarls at her, puts out her palms upright, and looks like she's begging for food. So this young Native American lady throws her the remaining bread and cheese that she's eating. The following evening, she says, is when terror really took over the camp. The night drew near, and from the hills, insidious screams and yells start coming down from the hills into the village. Insidious screams and howls. Then in the distance, she goes on to tell me that very shadowy, smaller figures started running down the hillside towards the camp. Then they grew closer. They appeared to be the little people, the friendly little people. Okay. I'm thinking maybe Puckwedgie. I don't know. I just seen Duke just mention that. So there were hundreds of these things all of a sudden. Out of nowhere, there's hundreds of these little people, maybe a Puckwedgie, whatever, humanoids. They're miniature. Now they're more like 3 foot and they're running down. And she says, "Hey, Rob, they are draped in animal skins from a variety of different mammals, raccoon pelts, sheep skins, deer antlers abounded some of their heads, adorned their heads. Very different." And he says they were armed. These little people with these variety of mammal or animal skins are also armed. And they were armed with smaller spears, bows, and arrows. They even had slingshots. And now they're down into their village. They're in their campsite and they're running amok in this community, everybody. I mean, that would be terrifying. Hundreds of these little people, whatever they are. They started peltering the village with the slingshots, the rocks, the bows and arrows are flying about. And they're attacking. They're attacking the village. There were so many that they doubled the village. They couldn't fend off these humanoids, whatever noun you want to use, right, to describe them. She even goes on to say that their tribal fought back and they actually killed some of these things. I guess unalived is the word on YouTube. But many slipped past their defenses and they're just roaming about this village, everybody. And it seemed like these creatures, Puckwedgies, little people, again, whatever, they seemed to have one goal in mind, and that was to they were seeking out infant children, not toddlers, infants. They would go through, according to her, there were so many, they went through their trailers, whatever they lived in, pillaging, looking, and they were attempting to steal babies, and they fought at will against this attack coming from the hills off of Lake Superior. They didn't pay much attention to the humans. I mean, the adult humans of the village, the tribal people, I should say. They were just they had one goal in mind. They didn't seek food. They didn't seek water. They didn't seek other weapons. They didn't seek the women, didn't seek any of the resources. They were looking for babies. infant kids. This lady goes on to tell me that the rampage continued for hours as these little people just seemed to multiply, multiply, and multiply. After the assault, as is found out later, that these humanoids, these little people ended up, you guys, abducting 3 babies. So I guess after the rampage ended, they did an inventory. They were looking around for their kids, this, that, and other, and they, after a thorough head count in the village, 3 babies were vanished. They're gone, kidnapped, obviously. So the village all gets together and they put together a plan. They put a plan in place to go find their stolen children. Just as they are assembled to leave the camp and go look for their babies, coming down from the hillside, everybody, was that 5-foot tall naked woman. Again, after the rampage, after the abductions, they're getting their plan of action together to go out and seek and find the kids, the babies. That same 5-foot naked woman comes down the hill. This woman gets 20 yards or so outside of the camp. And the villagers are staring in disbelief. Coming by herself after what had just occurred. Now, mind you, everybody, what's odd about this is the fact that they were attacked by 3-foot, punk wedgies, little people, humanoids, whatever. Not like this 5-foot tall naked woman that clearly looked human, but extremely odd, right? And then and I mentioned earlier, she had that big, weird mouth and everything. Then, uttering from her gut, she speaks out to the crowd of villagers. She's 20 yards inside a camp. Her words, as this young lady, tribal person, is telling me, the words uttered and rang out, "Our life blood has been fulfilled." Our lifeblood has been fulfilled. Now, I don't really know what that means. I mean, I can certainly speculate it's not good. Did they need these babies to continue on with their lives? The blood of infants? I don't know. I'm just speculating here. Then she also utters out these other words. She utters out to the group, the villagers, which I can't believe they're not attacking her. I really can't. I don't know why. I would have just thrown down on this naked ass, big breasted, whatever, and taken her down. I'd have kidnapped her and made their journey easy to find the kids, right? She utters these words: "Do not extract revenge upon this night, or the land will be cursed for all eternity." So she throws some voodoo hex on them to scare these people, right? Throws out these words: "Don't extract revenge because upon this night, because they're going to curse the land." Intimidating factor, whatever it is. I'm still like, hey, go grab that, you know what, and, you know, take us to your leader and get our kids back. So I guess this tribal community is all aghast with fear. And now what's odd is she's telling me, you guys, and I can't figure out how some of these cultures operate, because, if it was myself or anybody of you in chat, we don't care about this curse, this speak. We're off. We're looking for our kids, right? That's what we do. So I'm not privy to First Nations, their cultures, their beliefs in the spirit world, if you will. Because what I'm about to tell you makes no sense. The tribal community got together and debated what to do for weeks. You guys, they got together. Their 3 infant babies are kidnapped. The tribal community spent weeks, you guys, debating on what to do. Well, let me tell you something. Within the first 48 hours, those kids are gone. My opinion. So, what even further blows my mind, she goes on to tell me that it was decided by the elders that they would forget about that night. Forget about the attack. Forget about, and most importantly, forget about the 3 infant babies. Wash their hands of it, turn the other cheek. I don't get that, you guys. This is what she's telling me, right? I don't get it. I don't get it at all. It was decided finally, after weeks of consulting each other, to leave it alone. They knew, I guess, one of their, as I recall from the story, that they said that the baby's blood was already used, and to extract revenge would not be a wise thing. This young lady goes on to tell me again that this took place in 2011 in Lake Superior. Doesn't go on the exact location. Obviously, she says that, it's a vast area, this, that, and the other. She goes on to tell me, Rob, if you want to do this story, she says, I swear this is a true story. And she says she risks everything and even discipline from the elders if they even found out about her giving out this information. And that was in 2011. And I got this story back 2 years ago, I think a year and a half ago. She does tell me this now today, everybody, that she does now live in the state of Michigan in a suburb. She says she lives in guilt, and she now also lives in fear of her own elders. She says she looks over her shoulder every day because of the rights, the beliefs, the culture of her society. And she goes on to tell me that she could be silenced one day if this ever were to break. That she told this to anybody. I apologize for not giving up my name, Rob. You can call me Great Lake Spirit. That was kind of a doozy, you guys. Again, I already voiced my opinion on this. I don't understand these cultures. I don't understand how. Well, first of all, it's amazing. This 5-foot naked woman comes down the hills, this, that, and the other. In the beginning, looking for food with that porcupine-looking baby on the back of her shoulder, on her back, carries it off. A day later, attacked by these little people. And their only goal was to find little infants. They got the 3 infants. They take off. They split. Boom. Saggy old breasted lady comes on down, gives them that warning, right? And then it takes the tribe 3 days, you guys, 2-3 weeks to decide on the infants whether they get them or not. And then they decide to do nothing. See, everybody here watching this and listening to this, we're going to do something immediately. Again, I'd have kidnapped that woman, whatever it was. Take me to your leader. I want my kids back. We all would do that. different cultures, I guess. I just don't know. But how do people live that primitively? I don't understand that. It's not for me to decide. It's not for me to judge either, right? It's not for me to judge. I don't get it. I've got another one for you guys. I've got to go get some water. I'll be back. Don't go nowhere. Hit the like button, everybody, if you would, please. I've got a werewolf one to do last. Hope you enjoyed that. Give me about 90 seconds. I'll be right back. Thanks so much. All right, I'm back. I apologize for stepping away like that. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I was fighting back for that whole story. I haven't ate nothing all day today, right? I'm doing this 48-hour fast, right? Try to, anti whatever, get rid of the toxins in my body, right? Right. They suggest you do that once in a while. So I was getting this like indigestion. And I haven't ate nothing. So I was fighting back from burping on air. Hopefully you didn't hear me. I had some little ones. I was holding back. So I had to go let it all out, right? I know that's kind of gross, but hey, I am who I am, and I just had to tell you that. Thanks to everybody for coming on in. Hope you like those first two stories. I tell you that second one, you guys, I still can't get over that. I cannot get over that. I don't care. You're a human being, for God's sakes. You're not gonna go get your babies. You're not gonna fight. You're not gonna fight back. Not my culture. Don't understand it. But who am I to judge? As I said, I don't judge anybody, any culture, race, or nation. I appreciate that story that was sent in, though. I did like it, and hope you did too. I'm going to close it out with this last one. I thought it was appropriate because this is a man going to his mom's birthday party, and my mom's birthday was 3 days ago. She turned 79, and I do want to thank everybody for wondering about my mom because, as y'all know, she's been sick for several months. She's finally turned the corner for the best. So happy birthday to Ma. And thanks all of you for coming on in today. I still got that. I still got that little indigestion. I apologize. Um, so I appropriately called this encounter story Late for the Party. Thanks to everybody for coming on in. I see you all there. I'm not really reading chat. Love y'all. Like, share, subscribe, hit the like button. If you care to donate, go for it. I don't care one way or the other. I appreciate all of you. And thanks for helping me grow the channel. So I got this email from a guy. He doesn't give me his name either. I'm going to call this guy Randy. I just to come up with something. I got this email. His email was like 97-42 at Yahoo. Who the hell uses Yahoo for email today? It's all Gmail, I thought. But anyway. He goes on to tell me that this takes place, Val, if you're still here. There's Val. This takes place in Southwest Pennsylvania. This guy Randy, as I'm going to call him, says he's driving his Jeep Wrangler down a long stretch of road, sandwiched between deep, intense tree lines from the forest on either side of his travel. He says, "Yep, I'm running late for my mom's birthday." And so he decides to take this detour or a shortcut through the forest to save time. His mom always told him that I was the last to arrive and the last to leave for any family function. So he's already pegged as, late company, the guy that's always shows up late to the party. Then he's always the person that over welcomes his stay, right? We all know people like that. But he now knows for sure he's going to be really late because now he becomes unsure of this shortcut. Now the guy's lost. He's getting full of anxiety. He don't know where the hell he is. Now he says, "Man, Rob, I'm lost." He goes to use his cell phone to call his brother. The brother was more familiar with the shortcut because I guess he told his brother about this. However, there was no signal on his cell phone. So the guy's getting scared. He's getting a little bit worried. And now the sun was starting to set on the road ahead of him. It's now, going down. It's settling in the distance. The guy goes, he says he rolls down the windows of his Jeep. And all of a sudden, as he rolls down his windows, everybody, he gets this feeling of nausea in his stomach. So he decides to pull over for just a minute. He thinks he's going to, do the deed, right? He goes on to say that he gets out of his car, he walks around towards the tree line when he notices a set of glowing red eyes, approximately, I think he says like 20 or 30 yards, gleaming brightly through the dense forest as the red eyes are ripping through the forest as the sun is setting. He goes on to explain that the eyes were relatively low to the ground, perhaps 4 feet off of the ground, hovering there. And he has to look at these eyes several more times as they appear to be getting closer and closer and closer. Then he does realize that they were getting closer. And he says that this pace of this being, these eyes, they seem to pick up speed. All of a sudden now he says, "Rob, man, it's 20 feet in front of me." Then he says what he appears to think is that of a huge wolf. But he goes on to say there's something different about the wolf. The wolf stops, and stares at him. He says it's a menacing stare. He says he locks eyes. He locks his eyes with the menacing red eyes, staring into each other. A very disturbing feeling overtook this person. Not really the feeling that it's a wolf, but it's something else, and he can't put his finger on it. He says he cannot unlock the eyes from his eyes. He's like in a trance. He says he finally shakes it off. He rushes back into his Jeep and he speeds off down the road. In more than a few seconds, he looks back and he sees this creature now in his rear view mirror as it's now chasing him down in his vehicle and is gaining ground on this guy. Now, this guy's driving a Jeep. I don't recall if he gives me how fast he's going, but he's driving, and this thing is chasing him, gaining ground. Then all of a sudden, he says he loses sight of this creature, this being, whatever it is. He gets relieved. All of a sudden, it's gone. Whatever it did, turned back into the woods, whatever. He's relieved. It's gone. Of course, he's still panicking, and he's driving for several more miles down this road. Then he happens to look in his side view mirror, and he sees this beast running alongside him from the tree line. He says this creature is just about upon his Jeep. Then he goes to say, Rob, when I say running, in the very beginning, the first encounter was on all four legs. But now he says running, and he says running on two legs like a human being. He was upright, pacing this guy on the side of his car now. We've all heard these types of stories, right? They're very familiar. A dog man running alongside your car, veering in your window. We've all heard it with that grimacing smile and so forth, right? Now this creature is paralleling his car. It's right up to his window. He says that this creature, this wolf-like creature, now peers into his car. And again, I said that earlier because we've all heard similar things, and it appears to be smiling at this guy. But he says it wasn't a happy birthday smile. It was very dreadful, very sinister smile. This guy loses it. He loses it. Chills up and down his spine. The windows are down. As I mentioned earlier, he rolls down the power windows of his car. This guy is panicking now, and he's trying to get to the button of his power windows to roll them up. And he's in such a fright that he can't even get to the windows. And you know, everybody, when we're driving our cars with our power windows, they're right to our left. Just hit the button. Boom. You know, very easy to get to. This guy was so scared he could not even get to the power button window, right? He loses now that he's looking at this creature. He's trying to roll up his windows, find the power button. He now loses sight of the road ahead of him, and he hits a pothole in the road. He loses control of his Jeep, and he smashes into a tree off on the side of the road. Oh, I just happened to see that, Duke. I did. That is a funny story. I'm not really reading the chat, so thanks. I appreciate all you guys for coming on in. About 75 here in chat. Pretty cool for just doing an impromptu show. Appreciate that. It's very awesome of you guys. Thank you. Hit the like button if you would, please. And if you're new, please subscribe. Subscribe to Duke Sullivan as well. He's got some great stuff over there. World Bigfoot Central. So the guy smashes into this tree, right, after seeing this creature or whatever. And he says, man, Rob, it took like several hours. It seems like several hours goes by. Then all of a sudden he wakes up. Now he wakes up, everybody, to his brother shaking him from inside the vehicle. He plants his Jeep right on a tree on the side of the road. So the brother finally gets the door of the vehicle open. He's worried. He's checking his brother, looking for injuries, asking him if he felt pain or anything like that. You're wondering about, broken bones, this, that, and the other. He asks his brother to speak, recite the alphabet to make sure he was cognizant, knew where he was at, concussion or what have you. So after brother realizes that he was okay, the brother asks this guy, who just had this experience, what had happened. Not to mention he's 2 hours late from mama's place, right? And what I said earlier in the story, this guy was, one of these guys always had an excuse for everything. He was always late. This, that, and the other. So he's one of the, he's the one in all our families that we all have that you really can't count on. So this guy is doubting what he's about to tell his brother. So he says to his brother, well, I was running late as usual, and I decided to take the shortcut through the woods. Then the brother asks, well, what happened? How'd you lose control of your car and end up smashing into this tree? The brother even went on and suggested and gave him an excuse that a deer or something crossed your path or whatever, right? So, the guy that saw this alleged werewolf or Dogman figures that's the easy way out and tells his brother, yeah, that's what happened. A deer went across my path. I lost control. I was running late. I got lost in the woods. He goes on to tell me, hey, Rob, man, I didn't really want to tell my family what had really happened. First of all, I'm going to tell my family I saw a werewolf. Or even a wolf ran me off the road, peering into my car. He knew his family would find that story to be absurd, so he kept it to himself. Robbie, the first person I've told this story to, and I will tell you this, with that being said, I have to get out and tell this story. I have to see somebody because now he goes on to tell me he suffers from extreme PTSD, and I get it. He now continues to look over his shoulder in fear. And in fact, he cannot even drive his vehicle through the forest anymore, which he says makes it very difficult for him to get around because where he lives, the area is covered by about 60% of woods and woodline and off-road trails. He goes on to tell me he wishes he never took that shortcut. And he really goes on. This guy's putting it all on himself. He goes, I really have myself to blame. I never should have been running late, Rob, which ventured off onto a path I was unfamiliar with. And I come across this extraordinary experience of which I can't tell my family because of the nature of who he is. So he leaves it at that, and he says he suffers alone. And he thanked me for reading the email and perhaps sharing it one day. So, you guys, I tell you, it's kind of the moral to the story. We all growing up, a lot of you guys have kids or whatever. And once you get that mark in your family as the one that people just don't believe, can't trust, and then when something does happen, you have nowhere to go. So I do feel sorry for this guy. I do. That's just too bad. I hope you guys enjoyed these 3 stories I did today, encounters. If I had to pick a favorite, it was the second one, of course. I just don't get it. That's a certain tragedy. But, it seems like when we come across a lot of these creatures and they come upon us so fast and so readily, just like what happened to me, man, I was messed up for a little while until I got my stuff together. And yeah, so I want to thank you all for coming on in. I appreciate you guys. Hit the like button on your way out. Today is Friday. To Blondes and Booze Round, and I go check them out. And I'll be doing my late show with the girls. I backed it up from midnight to 11. It gets too late sometimes coming on at midnight every Saturday. So I'm now on 11 o'clock every Saturday night with the girls with bizarre news and some other bizarre encounters and some stories. And we like to have a good time on that show. We talked mayonnaise for 40 minutes, last month, which is the number 1 video I have, talking mayonnaise. The Dukes Hellman's Challenge. It was crazy. You guys seem to like it, so I'm going to keep doing those. Subscribe if you're new. I'm going to look for the button because I got so much stuff to find to end this. I love each and every single one of you. Subscribe to all our shows across the board. I'm Bigfoot Michigan Rob. And if I can find it, I found it. Love y'all. Like it on the way out.
This is the future. Evolution. is the future.